Have you ever wondered what type of IT infrastructure is needed for a school? Like a school district. Like what do schools need? Do they need switches, routers? What's that like? Well, today we're going to answer those questions. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Network Chuck. I kind of have a different video today, or a different type of video. I'm interviewing somebody. His name is Dallas Splon, and this guy's amazing. But he's an infrastructure administrator for a school district. And I'm going to ask him what it's like to be that guy. And he deals with everything from big campus core switches to security to Nexus switches in a data center and voice and collaboration. He touches it all. So it's a really cool story about how he got started and what it's like to work in this really crazy role. It is a longer interview. Let me know what you think about this type of video. If you want to see more of this, less of this, or just cut it out, let me know. And I'll put kind of a table of contents to skip around to what you want to see in the description. But anyways, I thought you guys would benefit from hearing from a real engineer out in the field who works with this stuff every single day. And really a cool area of IT, like a cool sector, like school districts. Such a cool thing. And I had no idea. So it was really fun for me to hear about it. So thanks again, Dallas. And if you guys don't know who Dallas is, he's been a part of our community for a while. And he actually gave me a ton of IT equipment, a bunch of phones and stuff. Like actually that phone back there, he gave that to me for my course. So thanks, Dallas, for that. This is a really cool guy. So let's get into it. So Dallas, which by the way, coolest name ever, Dallas Splon. What are you?
Well, my title is infrastructure administrator. I kind of have to be a jack of all trades. I don't have to necessarily specialize in certain areas, with like security. We have a security administrator, we have a VoIP administrator. So I've kind of moved away from the VoIP specialty, and I've kind of had to be the umbrella guy of all that.
Which, I've been there. And you and I, we share the same passion. We both love voice. In fact, I need to shout out you again, but you sent me a ton of collaboration stuff when I was creating my CIPTV1 course, which is part of the CCNP collaboration. So I still have that stuff. I use it all the time. Thank you so much for sending me that stuff. That was amazing.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome.
So anyway, so you started out with just voice, right? So I guess we should start out from the beginning. So we already know why you're cool. You're an infrastructure admin, you're working for a school district, and that's a whole, people don't know about that. I have no idea what it's like to work for a school district, what's involved there. So we'll get to that. But let's scratch the surface of how you got started and your path to where you got to now, which is awesomeness. So let's trace that back.
Man, so it's actually kind of a funny but long story. I was actually, this kind of shows my age, but it was like the year 2000. I think I was 19 years old. I was working in a supermarket, and I was working in the meat market, and they were real big sticklers on not having any facial hair.
Oh yeah, and, that's a nothing. I'm out.
I kept showing up. To work with a little bit of stubble on my face, and they would say, "Hey, at lunch you need to go home and shave that stuff off." And I said, "Okay." First couple of times I thought, "Yeah, I'll go home and do it." Well, then eventually, my dad gave me a A+ for Dummies book one time.
Is he in IT?
He is. He used to be a school teacher here, and he retired a couple of years ago, and he works for a Trinity Fellowship Church here in Amarillo, and he works in the technology department there.
Oh, that's so cool.
He's the whole reason why I got into IT. I've got a lot of respect for my dad, love him to death, and he's just one of the coolest guys I know.
That's obviously, that's my story too. If someone's seen my videos, I'll talk about my dad. That's how I got started. So yeah, it's great to have someone who can kind of guide your way, light your path a little bit.
Oh yeah, for my 11th birthday, he bought me computer parts and told me if I wanted a computer for my birthday, I'd have to build it, and he would teach me how to build it. And that's really
fantastic.
what got me started. But the grocery store they said, you need to go home and shave. And like I said, I was reading that A+ for Dummies book, and I got about halfway through it, thought I knew everything. And I thought, man, the next time these guys send me home, I'm just not going to come back. So the assistant manager said, hey, you need to go home and shave your face at lunch, or actually go home right now and shave. And I said, I'll tell you what, if you send me home to shave, I'm not going to come back. And he said, all right, try me out. So I left, and then as soon as I left, I thought, oh no, I need a job now. That was kind of dumb.
Didn't see that part.
Yeah, I didn't think through that I was 19 years old. So I went to Emerald College here in Amarillo, and they had a book. I don't know if they still have it, but they have this book, sort of like classifieds, but it was just for Emerald College students. And I said, well, I'm just going to pray to God that there's a job here for a computer guy. Flipped to the computer section, and there was one job for a computer related field, and it was for a Flash developer for a company here.
Developer. Huh.
Yeah, they just their website was built in Flash, and they needed someone to come in and make changes. It was already built; they just needed someone to maintain it. And I thought, well, I don't know anything about Flash, but I'll go buy a book. Went to Barnes and Noble, read about 10 pages of it, and I thought, man, this stuff's for the birds. I hate this stuff. And I thought, well, I'm just going to go to the interview anyway and see what happens. And I went to the interview, and the guy literally said, I don't really need a web developer. It was first 5 or 10 minutes of the conversation. He goes, I need someone that can build computers. And I thought, well, there you go. And that's how I got my start.
That's weird. So like, why do you think the job description was so Flash heavy? Did you ask him that?
I think what they were trying, they didn't want to hire someone to do computer stuff. They wanted to hire a web developer. They were trying to get into the whole, we're going to start making web pages deal, where they build web pages for customers. And then he kind of was doing what he wasn't supposed to do, I guess, and decided he wanted to hire a computer tech first. He had a different idea than what the owners did. He wanted to get into back then it was popular to build computers and resell them and compete with Dell and Compaq and all that stuff.
Interesting. Okay.
Didn't work out too well, but I got a couple years of experience out of that, and then I went to work for a credit union, and then I went to work for a church, the same church my dad works at.
What were you doing at the credit union?
Same stuff. It was just data center types. I shouldn't say data center. It was more like data entry type stuff. And then they would do month-end processing. It was really, really entry-level IT stuff.
Okay.
Troubleshooting computers and why they won't print, and troubleshooting, why people can't get on the internet, and just basic low-level IT stuff, the entry-level IT stuff. And then from there, I went to work at the church. They needed a part-time IT person, and I had a full-time job, and I had a baby on the way, and I thought, well, I'm just going to put my faith in the Lord that He's going to provide for me. So I took it, and
whoa, that is crazy. So okay, that's insane on two accounts, because I know that working for a church isn't the most lucrative thing to do, and then you're part-time. So that was definitely a leap of faith. So
health insurance.
How big was the church?
It's one of the mega churches here. It's 7,000-8,000 people.
Oh, well, that's something. Yeah, because the church I go to, there's no need for an IT guy.
Oh, okay. Yep. We have 2 mega churches here. Well, I say 2 non-denominational mega churches, I guess you say. Which kind of funny when people talk about Amarillo, they don't realize where Amarillo is, and they always think it's small town, which really it is.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know where Amarillo is, it's in Texas. It's in the Panhandle. If you go north, it's in that little weird thing there. And I honestly didn't know you guys had multiple mega churches. And so what's it like doing IT for a church?
It's like you said, it's not the most lucrative. They try to get how can I say this without being mean? They want a lot of skill set, and they don't have the funds to pay for it.
Yeah, and that's not unique to churches. I mean, I worked for so many small companies where they want everything in one guy, and it's amazing. Like, you look at those job descriptions, and it's like 4 pages long, and you're like, this is 15 people right here. Or what, you want that in one guy? That's insane.
It's good. Yeah, it was good working for a church. I really liked it. It was a good experience, both spiritually, and it was a good experience.
I've always wanted to do that, but it's just doing the money that has prevented it for me.
It's hard. There's a lot of turnover in churches, and particularly like pastors and stuff. But it was a good experience. But like I said, it was only a part-time, so I didn't have health insurance, or at least my wife and I didn't. And by that time, we had our first child, and we were on government health care for a while. And then it was kind of funny. It was a godsend, really. The boss that I worked for at the church, he was the head of accounting, and he was a board member at a different credit union here in town. And I would ask him, every so often, hey, can you guys put me on full time so I can get insurance? I mean, I'd ask them. No, we don't have the funds for it. Okay, well, I just kept working there and just thought, okay, just going to keep giving this a shot. And then he told me one day, he said, hey, the credit union that I'm a board member at, the IT guy here is fixing to retire, and he's just a consultant. So I could probably get you on part time. If you're interested, go over and talk to the president of the credit union. And so I did, and took about 2 or 3 months. But they called me and said, okay, well, we can have you work part time, and we're willing to work at the church. Let you work at the church from 8 to noon or whatever, and come work for us from 2 to 5 or 2 to 7, 2 to 6, whatever it was. And so I did that, and worked there for a while. And at the same time, my wife's a school teacher here. And so she was not able to, I guess she could work, but she could only work at night. But really, we just thought, hey, let's just keep you home with the kids and let you focus on school. So I got a third job working from 7 o'clock at night till midnight at a locally owned internet provider. It was called AMA Techtel. So I had 3 jobs for about 3 years. And then finally one day, Access Credit Union, the credit union I worked for, they offered me a full-time job. It was just a network specialist, I think was what it was called, or an IT specialist. And then from there, it kind of turned into that's where I found CBT Nuggets when I worked there at Access. That's when I got my CCNA.
Well, hold on. I don't want to get too far ahead because I have a couple questions about the church experience. Because I always tell people, like, one of the biggest problems people have when they get into IT or try to get into IT is they can't get experience. When you worked at the church, did you have like interns? Would you have people who were just not paid and they would get on and help you out?
Yes, we did. We did have interns at churches. That's actually a good idea, is to go to your local church or go to your local faith-based organization or any type of organization that works off of like those types of funds, and ask them for if they need any volunteer IT help. And that'll get your foot in the door, and it'll get people's notice. And a lot of times those people that are work at those community centers like that or churches, they're connected with other people in the community. And if you're good and you come in with a positive attitude, and you don't come in with a feeling sorry for yourself, or you read a CCNA book, now you think you need to make 50 grand walking out the door, you kind of get that, off your mind, and just, do it. I always tell my kids, and I always tell people coming into the field, I always say, don't do this for the money. And that's not just IT. Don't do anything just for the money. Money's important, but if you're doing everything solely for the money, you'll never be happy. Because money won't buy you happiness. I know that's a cop-out term, but you got to do it because you love it. And Jeremy Charr always said, and that's exactly where I got that from, was when he said, find something and fall in love with it. Doesn't matter what it is, just fall in love with it. And that's where I came into Route Switch. Was I was working at the credit union, and I wasn't doing a lot of Route Switch stuff there, but I was doing enough to get my feet wet, so to speak. And just kept reading books, went to Safari Online, and I've subscribed to that thing for years, and that's where I get all my books. I just found it a couple of years back. I had no idea that was a thing. Yeah, it's awesome. It's I wouldn't do it any other way. I wouldn't buy another book unless I just wanted to have something physical. It's been a hard transition for me. Well, I'll say it has been. It was a hard transition for me to go all electronic, paper studying stuff, and it's hard not to have a book in front of you. It is, yeah. But now, when I read a book now, man, it's hard for me to, like, if it's a paper book, it's hard for me to read it. I'm so used to the electronic format now, because you can make notes, you can highlight, and you can reference stuff way quicker. So, and then actually from Access, that's where I'm at today, was Region 16. It's kind of funny, one of my friends, actually, while I was working at the credit union, he was working at Suddenlink, and he was kind of tired of the politics and stuff there, that whatever was going on there. And I always used to get emails when jobs would come up. I don't know if it was Indeed.com or something like that I subscribed to, that talked about job postings and stuff in my area. But I think I remember I got an email one day, and I was talking to him on chat one day, and he was talking about how he was frustrated with his job. And I said, hey, it looks like this Region 16 is hiring for for a unified communication specialist. Why don't you go try it? And he'd say, oh, I'm just a route switch guy. I don't know anything about VoIP stuff. It's like, never know, man. Just go try it and see what happens. And then he went to work there and kind of got them, to where they went from 2 school districts to about 10 school districts. And then he decided to go back to Suddenlink. And he called me the day he was fixing to leave. And he said, hey, they're about to have a job opening up here at Region. It's my old job. So if you're interested, I'll put in a good word for you. And
Wow.
so I hemmed and hawed on it for a while. I thought, I don't know if I'm so comfortable. I don't know if I want to do this. And I was real complacent, but I was kind of happy, but I wasn't happy with, I thought there was room for growth.
Oh,
and
so the company you're at, you kind of hit the ceiling there.
I felt like I hit the ceiling. Yep. And I felt like I had hit the ceiling 4 years into it. Thought, man, this place I'm wanting to grow a lot faster than what they're wanting to grow their business, which is anything against them. It's just that's the pace that they wanted to go, and I wanted to go here, and I was here, and I just thought, okay, well, I'm just going to do it again, just go try and see what happens. And went and interviewed, and then they actually called me probably about two or 3 days later and asked if I'd be interested in the position, and that's where I'm at today. Started out as a VoIP specialist, unified communications.
Did you have any experience in voice before you started there?
I did a little. At the credit union we started out with just an old PBX style system, and then I talked them into going with Call Manager Express through AMA Techtel, which was the company I was also working for at the time. And they went with Cisco, and then a couple years later they needed to go to more of a call center format. They built some kind of a call center, call answering service platform at the credit union, and they priced out Cisco and ShoreTel, and they didn't like the Cisco call manager platform at the time, so they went with the ShoreTel system. So ShoreTel was all Windows based and used to crash all the time, and so anyway, I don't want to speak bad about another company because I think they got bought out actually by another company. I think they got bought out by Mitel or something. ShoreTel did.
I think so. Yeah, Mitel's getting up there. Did someone buy Mitel recently? Didn't they just merged with Avaya, didn't they?
Did they?
I think so.
Wow. So that's where I'm at today. I went to Access with about 2 years, maybe 3 years worth of Call Manager Express experience. And of course, going from Call Manager Express to Call Manager is night and day difference. It's the setup is way different.
Well, yeah, because it was funny because I had the opposite experience. I went straight to Call Manager, and I had no idea how to work Call Manager Express.
Oh, it's all router based, and of course, it's got the web GUI. But back then, it was all router based. There wasn't a GUI. The only part that had a GUI front end was the Unity Express. There wasn't a GUI interface for the Call Manager Express at the time.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, for Cisco, they have a phone system, and the big phone system called CUCM, or Cisco Unified Communications Manager, is run off VMware. It's run off big servers, but then they have Call Manager Express, which actually runs off a Cisco router. It's just you got to have enough horsepower in it, and it can run a small phone system. It's pretty cool. It's actually really fun. You should try it out.
Trying to think what else. When I started, I was the opposite. I knew nothing about Call Manager. I'd heard about it, and I'd always wanted to mess with it and play with it. And I think I bought a book. I think I bought Jeremy Chara's C-Voice book, I think, back in the day. And then I was, of course, I subscribed to CBT Nuggets. So basically, CBT Nuggets got me through my first 2 years of working at Region 16, just doing the voice stuff.
That was me too. I mean, Jeremy Chara was my wings, the wind beneath my wings when I first started at my first voice job. I had no idea what I was doing, and he just inspired the heck out of me. Oh my gosh! I'm like, well, actually, what I'm doing is pretty cool. It was fun.
And to see the passion that he had in Call Manager, I thought, okay, man, this guy's got a lot of passion in what he's doing with this stuff. I think I can have that same passion too. And I got to where I loved VoIP stuff. And it's kind of funny, when I started at Region, a lot of people didn't like the VoIP stuff. They were a little gun shy about it. They weren't real sure how it was gonna do. And I say they didn't like it. It wasn't necessarily, I guess, that I can't speak for them. Maybe they did like it. I don't know. But I seemed like I was the only one that had the passion for it.
Well,
But
I can't tell you how many people I meet that they're route and switch and they don't like voice at all.
really,
It's amazing. Like I think in the past, yeah, 2 companies I've worked at, most of the admins there don't want to touch voice at all. So like if their
that's
voice guy leaves, they can't wait to get another one on there because they don't want to touch it. It's
I don't
hilarious.
I don't understand why. There's nothing that I can see that I hate about it. It's just it's challenging. I think the thing that I struggle with VoIP is I understand the call manager platform. I think pretty well, but when it gets into actually looking at SIP headers and going in and doing pulling the trace logs and actually, okay, well, I've got someone that called and said that they were trying to talk to a remote in person, and the call just dropped.
Oh, did you break up?
Go.
Wait, was that on purpose? You said the call just dropped and then you dropped off.
I think it was.
That's excellent. You can't make that stuff up.
Yeah. Well, someone would call me and say, "Hey, I was talking to somebody and the phone it just died." Well, okay, so you had to say, "Well, did your phone reboot and said it was registering, or you were sitting there talking and all of a sudden you just heard dead air, or what? Tell me exactly what happened."
Mm-hmm.
So they'd say, "Well, I was just talking and I figured out I was talking to myself, so I hung the phone up and it didn't say registering or anything." So then you got to go and start pulling call traces and figure out, were you talking to somebody on a cell phone and the call just ended? I mean, being able to look at those trace logs is pretty key. I mean, because it'll tell you which end hung up the call, and that being able to notify and look at stuff like that is, to me, that's really important in VoIP, because it is frustrating when you're dealing with people that get frustrated with technology easily. And we actually had this conversation at work the other day where sometimes people like to try to pretend like for some reason that VoIP, not necessarily that's going away, but VoIP's not as important as what it used to be. And to us, for school districts, that's absolutely important. That's like just as important as having fire extinguishers, because if a kid's choking on something in the cafeteria and they need to call 911, if you're, feeling so nonchalant about phone systems and something were to happen to that kid and the phone system doesn't work and the network doesn't work to provide the service, and phones are important. And I think it's important to remember that phones aren't going away, and I don't think the VoIP stuff's going away.
It's good to hear you say that, but then at the same time, I mean, I bet every one of those kids at the school has a phone.
They probably do, but there again, you're relying on a cell service and something
True.
that you can't control the quality of service and that type of stuff. It's
Yeah, I forget there's like regulations. I mean, you almost have to have something like that in the school. So let's break into that. So what is it like working in IT for a school district? I mean, because you're the infrastructure administrator for a company that pretty much does everything for a large amount of schools.
right.
What kind of infrastructure does a school have, from the data center to the phone systems to the edge routers and the ISPs? Like, what do we see there?
A lot of it's just like businesses. I will tell you that the biggest, I came from a business background, so I can't speak for all school districts, but it almost kind of seemed. So I came from a banking background. Really, I spent 8 years in the banking industry, and it's like 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, pedal to the metal. There's no downtime. It's just constantly people are doing stuff, and it's not that people at school districts aren't doing stuff, but
It's just more mission critical. Like when you're down for like 10 minutes, that they can put a dollar amount on that, right?
Exactly.
Like it's so stressful. Like I work for 2 mortgage companies, and yeah, banking's huge.
it's, oh my gosh. And from 8 to about 4 o'clock, kids are in classrooms learning. So internet's important, but there's also a chalkboard. There's also a dry erase board.
Books.
There's also books. There's also you can break out the TV and bust out a DVD and make them watch a video. And so I'm not saying it's not as important, but it's almost like 4 o'clock people go home, and at a bank 4 o'clock people are still working. They're working on closing a loan, and they're working on closing checking accounts and all that stuff. School after 4 o'clock, the only people that are there, I'm not saying teachers aren't there, but business office people are there paying the payable stuff, and IT people are there doing backups and stuff like that. But to answer your question about what type of architecture they have, a lot of them are, just access layer switches. That's a big deal.
What are you running in most schools? Are you like running 2960Xs or some older stuff?
2960Xs. Yep. Layer 2 and layer 3. We typically provide layer 3 at the edge device. A lot of them do firewalls. We're actually trying to start a service where we're going to try to provide. Right now, the firewall sits at the school, and we're trying to provide a service where we bring the firewall into the data center.
Okay. So you're going to backhaul the traffic to the data center.
Yes, as far as firewall traffic. So it's going to go. Right now it goes from the data center through a layer 2 MPLS circuit through our service provider, and to the school. It's usually an Ethernet handoff. Sometimes it's a fiber handoff, and it goes into a Metro Ethernet switch, and then from there it'll go into a firewall, and then from there it'll go into either. Mostly it's usually like a layer 3 2960X or something like that, or a 35 old. Not an old layer 3 switch, but just those types of layer 3 switches.
Right.
And that's typical school district. And then they have a lot of access points. A lot of schools are wireless.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
Wireless heavy. That's one thing that you really got to make sure you got to have working is the wireless, because everything's wireless. iPads, and they have a lot of schools are going Google now. So there's a lot of
Chromebooks.
Chromebooks. Oh yeah.
Interesting.
That's really big. So
I imagine you have to be pretty well versed in Wi-Fi.
Our network specialists probably do. I'm not as much because I'm really the infrastructure administrator for the service provider portion of our business. So I don't go to the school districts as often. I used to, but when I would go to school districts, it was more as a VoIP person, not a network person. So. And there, where I work, they really do kind of. You're in the VoIP department. You work on just VoIP. You rarely get into the network stuff.
Interesting, huh?
You can, but if you need to get that far and you're kind of getting into the weeds a little bit, they want you to call the network specialist.
Yeah,
and the same thing is the other way around. Those guys can troubleshoot the VoIP stuff to a point where, hey, I plugged it in, it's pulling the right IP address, but it's not registering with your stuff. I don't know why. So that's kind of where you have to know a little bit about firewalls and figure out the NAT traversal stuff and how basically the way we do it is it's a private IP on the school side, and then it sees the private IP on our side, and you have to not NAT since it's a layer 2 private network between us and them.
All those no NAT statements.
Yep, all those no NAT statements. And you have to know how to build that stuff, and you have to know how to look at those translation tables and how to build the access list for that. And then, of course, now with everything going next gen firewall, it's all GUI based. There's not a lot of CLI.
So what are you looking at now? Do you guys have Firepower or Palo Alto?
We've looked at Palo Alto, and we're looking at Cisco's FTD stuff and their FDM platform, and we're also looking at. There's 2 ways to run it. You could run it locally, which I think if you run it locally, I think it's called the FDM mode. To me, it kind of looks Meraki-ish. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I just think the GUI is.
So the last time I touched it, I had a 5555X and ASA, and we just put an SSD inside of that, and it ran off of that module. So what does it look like now for Firepower and FTD?
For a Firepower FTD, it's just a like a 1U chassis. Box.
Okay.
You can. They want you to buy it as an FTD, but you can turn it into an ASA if you want to. My understanding from what our Cisco guys have told us is the ASA code at some point will go away. I'm not sure when. I don't know that they knew a timeline, but
oh wow,
they're pushing people. Well, I mean, if you look at the ASA and you look at the throughput that it does, the money that you spend on an ASA. Won't take you as far as if you buy an FTD. So like if you're wanting to, an ASA will do fine up until like a gig or something. But if you want to go past a gig of throughput, then really FTD is your better option because your money will go a lot further because you can start turning on the IPS stuff and the malware protection stuff, and your money will just go a lot farther. Now it is expensive to, obviously, I mean, you want to start enabling features. I mean, you're gonna have to pay for all those features, but you're not gonna be able to do that with an ASA. ASA is just stateful firewall. And with the next gen firewall stuff, I think is the way to go. Whether you do Palo Alto or Cisco, I think from what we've seen, they're both comparable as far as functionality. And
now, so as far as security, I I imagine a school district would be interesting because you got a bunch of, a bunch of dumb kids going in there. They don't know what they're doing. They open up all these attachments or viruses. And what are the kind of vulnerabilities you're seeing, and what are some of the biggest threats you're encountering?
VPN stuff, so kids that will subscribe to a VPN service where they can bypass the school's web filter.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was all over that. Well, when I was doing it was all about proxies. We weren't on VPNs just yet. But yeah, all the kids now do VPNs to bypass those.
That's where an IPS will come in handy, because an IPS will look at, are you really HTTP traffic, or are you just hiding yourself as HTTP traffic?
So do you put everything through IPS?
We try to, yeah. If it's a school district that contracts with us for security, we'll run them through our IPS. And if not, they typically have their own Cisco IPS or Palo Alto, whatever they have.
What kind of web filtering do you use?
We're using Netspective for the most part.
Heard of that.
I had neither until I started working there. I started out using Surf Control, and then I think I used WebSense was what I used to use at the bank. And they liked to talk to, I think they have a protocol that they use to talk to Cisco stuff, WCCP protocol or something like that. It's been a while since I've looked at it. But, really the kind of thing that I'm really, that we did, and this is what Austin McDaniel at Cisco helped me construct, was the way our infrastructure was our IPS. I'd have to show you a diagram, but our IPS sat on the outside of the network, and then behind the IPS was our ASR 9K. And so all the BGP traffic, because we do BGP peering with AT&T, and there's another internet provider in Texas. It's government and education entities pay for this other, used to call it Internet 2, and there used to be no ads or anything like that on there. And so we peer with AT&T, we peer with our other internet provider, Learn, and all that BGP traffic would have to traverse through the big Cisco IPS that we had. And Austin, our Cisco guy, kept saying, man, you need to put your ASR on the outside and put your IPS on the inside. And then I thought, well, what about for schools that have their own IPS? We don't want them to go through our IPS. And so we, through EIGRP, we peer our Nexus. We have 2 Nexus boxes. We peer that with ASR, and it's got two separate links and 2 separate peers. And so we advertise based on just using EIGRP. We just whatever. If we want Nexus 2, which is the not IPS, we advertise that school's network off of that. And then for ones that do need the IPS, we advertise it off the other one. So ASR looks at it and goes, okay, well, this one goes this way and this one goes this way. It's pretty cool, and it actually works.
That stuff is so fun. When you can use those protocols and everything to route traffic and be creative, like that's what people don't realize is how creative you can be as a network engineer. Because there's a 1,000,001 ways to do one thing, and it's so fun to come up with a solution like that.
Yeah, but to answer your question, schools, the biggest security thing we see is, students trying to get smart and bypass the filter. We see a lot of denial of service attacks, just like a lot of people do. I mean, we see a lot of, I think it's important for people to see if they can subscribe to a denial of service. I think we used to use Verizon. I can't remember what we use now, but something through Learn, I think, is what we use. I can't remember what they use, but subscribing to that type of stuff helps, because then if you start getting denial of service, then you can get with your denial of service partner and they can quote unquote black hole that stuff, so it doesn't overrun the rest of your network, especially when you're
otherwise
a service
you
provider.
couldn't really do much about it. I mean, denial of service is, it's ridiculous.
Oh, it can cripple your whole network. And that's a big deal. There's a lot of bad guys out there, and they spend all their time figuring out how to get into your stuff, and by the time you stop them, they figured out another way while you're trying to figure out how to stop them. It's never ending cycle. Being in security is a tough business.
So you're pretty well rounded as far as the networking scope of things. I mean, because you do routing, switching, you've done voice, you're doing security, and you're doing data center right now, right?
Yes.
You know how many guys would kill to be in your position? Because I was in your place at one time where I was doing everything, even the Windows side of things, doing Exchange and then doing VMware. Like I could touch everything. I was a domain admin. But then I worked for a company where it was just voice and just network, and I couldn't touch anything else. And I felt so like handicapped. I felt like someone cut off my hands. So you're lucky to be in the position you're in.
Man, it took a lot of praying to say, hey, put me in a position where I can be, where I could, I felt like VoIP was good for me, and it allowed me to understand. The biggest thing I got out of VoIP was understanding how quality of service worked.
That's huge.
Understanding how network gear looks at VoIP packets or video packets, and queuing and shaping and policing, and when you're peering with a service provider and figuring out that they're not honoring your QoS packets, because I can't remember which service it is, and maybe layer 2 or 3, I don't remember what it is, but some of them will not honor your QoS packets. So if you send something across to this provider, they just strip everything off you just sent them and put their own QoS on top of it. So
oh man,
some of them you have to pay for that service for them to, it's sort of like Cisco gear. I mean, you can do the same thing with Cisco gear, turn that QoS stuff off, and where it'll ignore every QoS packet you send, or everything that you tag as a QoS packet, you can rewrite it yourself, and that's what some providers do. But that's the biggest thing I learned doing VoIP, was figuring out how QoS worked, and figuring out that QoS only kicked in when there was congestion. See, I always kind of thought, hey, turn this on and it's going to fix your problems. Mm-hmm. But really, it's only going to work if there's congestion. If there's no congestion, it's not really going to do much.
Right. And it's kind of like, it's a last resort measure. It's like you're bleeding, so put pressure on this so the other stuff can work. Like, it's just like, it's so you can live when things get crazy. The best medicine is more bandwidth.
That's right. It's like rearranging the deck chairs on a sinking ship, I think is what someone said. That's pretty much what it's like. It's just, it's going down. You go first and you go last.
women and children first, Titanic style. That's what QoS
right.
is.
Yeah. But that.
Oh, go ahead.
That's probably the biggest thing I learned out of VoIP was the learning how to look at SIP packets was huge. Really, really helped me. And then understanding QoS and really understanding it from a layer 2 and layer 3's perspective. Switches do QoS different than routers. Mm-hmm. And just going to Google or going to YouTube and just finding videos on QoS. I mean, Kevin Wallace has a bunch of stuff about QoS.
Love Kevin Wallace. He's so good.
He's probably one of out of all the ones. I mean, I think Safari Online has a QoS class that you can go to Safari Online and just type in QoS. And I think there's several videos out there, but I think Kevin's was probably one of the ones that really resonated with me the most.
I know that he does he does a killer QoS presentation at Cisco Live, I think every year. And if anybody's interested, you can actually go to ciscolive.com, get a free account, and just type in Kevin Wallace. You can find that session if you really want to deep dive into QoS.
That's even if you're not a VoIP person, learning QoS is crucial. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that it'll help you even if you're not running a Cisco VoIP system. I mean, every VoIP system will send QoS packets, and it's either tagged with EF or whatever else it is. And as long as you're looking at that EF packet, it's probably a VoIP packet, maybe. But
that's one thing that I found so surprising, because I was in the Cisco only realm for so long that when I started working with other equipment, I'm like, I know how to work all this stuff. It's amazing what is actually RFC and what's standardized and how other vendors implement it. But I mean, if you learn Cisco, you can pretty much do most things without too much difficulty.
Yeah, they set the stage for a lot of. They set the standards for a lot of. They're one of maybe they're not the biggest, but to me they are. They're one of the most well-known networking companies, especially, and people are going to model their stuff after that. I mean, you can go to Palo Alto, and their security stuff is similar to Cisco. They're all similar. They're all just like each other. They all borrow from each other, and they'll go and they'll hire each other's help and stuff. So I mean,
you see all the time. Like if you follow any Cisco person on Twitter, they're going to end up changing to Palo Alto, or they'll go to Juniper or VMware. I mean, it's funny how that works.
It is, and you just got to kind of go with what I would say your gut feeling, but you just got to go with what's best for your company. I mean, whether you're looking at just based off price or based off hardware, or do your research, go to websites to find. Try to find vendor neutral specs, because a lot of these companies go out and they'll do benchmarks on a lot of this gear. Trying to find people that can do that, that's not biased in one way or the other, that's tough.
Because I'll be straight up honest. I'm the most biased person you'll see. If you see me talking about a Cisco product, it means I haven't looked at anything else. It's just Cisco.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I try to push Cisco if I can, but it's from our perspective, working where I work, when we're talking to a school district, we can't really tell them one way or the other, hey, buy this Cisco gear. I mean, we just make recommendations and let them, they purchase their own stuff and we just work on it. So we have school districts that just have HP switches, HP ProCurve. And
HP?
Yep. We have some that have HP ProCurve. We have some that have Dell switches. We have some that have old 3Com switches still in the rack somewhere.
No.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Do they have support contracts on those things?
Typically, when it's come to that point, it's a new school for us. And we're also kind of unique in the sense that we only have, 60 something customers. We don't go after anything else. I mean, we're not going to go market ourselves to a bank. I mean, we only do school districts, and it benefits the school district to do business with us just because, the people that work above me, the people that work in management and stuff, a lot of them were teachers. A lot of them were coaches. A lot of them were principals, superintendents at schools. So those guys really know the education side. And they were in the trenches as a staff member at whatever school district they came from. And so they really know. And for me, I came from banking. I don't know anything about schools, just other than being their service provider and knowing what their needs are and knowing that, like right now, I'm sure, I don't know if your kids are old enough to do STAR test here in Texas, but STAR testing is huge. You have to have internet access. A lot of those state testing platforms are online only for certain grades. For some of them are still paper. I think my son's almost 15, and I think some of his STAR tests are paper and some of them are electronic. I don't know. I ask him and he gives me a different answer every time. But, I know, like I said, my wife's a teacher and I think all hers are online. So having internet at the school while they're in school is important. I mean, you do not take it down. And, if something happens, they call. So it's important to internet. Always, I said earlier that it doesn't seem like it's as important as like at a bank, but it's important in a different way. They don't use the internet the same way that a banking person does.
Right. I think they're more tolerant of failure at a school district. Like if something goes down, well, okay, we can chill out and twiddle our thumbs. Whereas a banker is more like, okay, I'm pissed at you because you're costing me a lot of money right now. And I think it's just that perspective.
Right.
I never want to work for a financial institution again, but I tell you what, they're fun because they're always changing and they do have good budgets. They do want to buy stuff because when they need to go faster and they grow so fast, they need big stuff. It's fun.
Yep. Oh yeah. And banks are security heavy. I mean, they're taking care of your finances. School districts are becoming that way now too because student data and how easy it is to mine student data. So it's very, very important for school districts to really start beefing up their security. Video is huge. I mean, you have field trips and stuff like that might be taken. You might have a field trip at a museum in Chicago, and they want to broadcast that to school districts.
Really?
And so, yeah, we'll have school districts call us. Teachers will call us, and they'll say, "Hey, my 5th grade class wants to watch this video that's taking place in Chicago about dinosaur bones or something." And so Jeff Rogers, he's our video administrator. Man, that guy's on the ball. I mean, you could ask me any question you want about video, and I probably could not answer it. But
is he like one of those old legacy Tandberg guys or something?
Yes, actually, man. He'll if I were to get him on the call, he would be talking to you about Codian and Tandberg, and he uses a scheduler. I think I can't remember what Cisco's is called. It's the I can't remember what their scheduler's called. I think it starts conductor maybe.
Oh yeah, telepresence conductor and all the other stuff.
Well, we looked at that. We don't have that. I think Jeff uses life size as a recorder. Renovo, I think, is what he uses for scheduling, and it'll dial our MCUs. He'll go in there and he'll say at 9 a.m. I want you to call the video codec at the school and place a call to the museum in Chicago or the museum here in Amarillo.
That's so cool.
Man, it's cool. And the teachers I think it can be pretty, pretty well interactive. So there's all types of stuff that we do. Like I said, when you take what we do and you take it out to the rest of the world, outside of Amarillo, may not be that unique, but to this area, that's pretty unique to do all of that stuff.
No. I mean, I think you don't realize what you do is pretty cool. I mean, a lot of companies I've worked at, I mean, they just don't have the needs that you do. Like, I work for a financial company, and they don't really care about video. Like for me, I was learning it, so I'm like, well, we should definitely do this. No joke, we should do it because I care about it. But at a school, there's a real need for it. There's a real purpose. You guys have unique needs that have to be met, and it's so fun to see how technology can meet that.
Yeah, it's interesting that we'll have like a Spanish class, and there's a town called Claude. It's actually on the way to Dallas from Amarillo. So for me to get to where you live, I have to go Amarillo. The next town over is Claude, and then it goes. Eventually, you'll wind up Wichita Falls. Eventually, you'll wind up in Dallas. But anyways, Claude, I don't know if they still do. At one point in time, they did. So if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But I think they teach a Spanish class, and then they actually contract with other school districts in our area. Their students take a Spanish class through Claude School District.
Well, that's cool.
And it's all based on the video equipment and the MCUs and all that stuff that we have in our data center. So what we do is really unique. It's really cool. I love it. It's stressful sometimes, especially when sometimes I get a little more confident than what I need to. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to work. So I had my routes set up. I told you earlier about our Nexus boxes and our ASR. And
what flavor of Nexus do you have?
It's a 93 128. So it's big boy. It's 96 ports. Like it does like 6 10 gigs and 4 40 gigs. I think is what it does.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
And those are so. I'm just learning the Nexus stuff.
Nexus is a trip, man. Like VPCs and all that, and peer linking. Like that's some heavy stuff.
That is so cool. There's another one of our school districts, and this guy, he is at the top of. He's in a smaller town, but man, his data center that he has in his school district. The name of the town's Canadian, Texas. And man,
Texas.
Yeah. Man, that guy, I get so much inspiration from him. His name's David Calabrese. He's actually from Italy. And it was kind of funny when I met him. When he talked, he didn't have a Texas accent, but he had an accent, but it wasn't, I didn't think it was like an Italian accent. It was just like, I can tell this guy's not from Texas, but I don't know where he's from. But he didn't have like an Italian accent.
Like he's been working on it for a while, and it's kind of hard to tell. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is he tells you, and I think that I'm correct in saying this, that he learned how to speak English by singing heavy metal in Italy.
That's interesting.
He played the bass guitar and learned how to speak English, singing heavy metal. And man, you were to speak to this guy today, you're like. Man,
why are you screaming at me? Stop.
But it's pretty cool. I got a lot of inspiration from him. A lot of, he has a couple of Nexus boxes too. And I was his network specialist. And he did a big time. He went from just a regular VMware to VxRail. And that was a huge, huge change for him. And when I started working with him, when I was a network specialist for 6 months or 3 months, whatever, I started out VoIP specialist for 4 years, almost 4 years. And then one of our network specialists left, and we really didn't fill the position at the time. So they asked if I would be willing to take on a couple of schools as a network guy, just to do LAN stuff, just like work on switches and printers and stuff.
Right.
And Canadian was one of the schools that I took, and he was doing that big migration that summer. And oh my gosh, you talk about stressful. I mean, it's like, school gets out probably this week or next, I think. From the time school went out, whenever he started this project until the day school started, that poor guy worked the whole time getting that data center up. And it was just, bless his heart, man, he worked super, super hard.
But that's a good thing though. Like I didn't think about that. But like, in most companies, you cannot be down for that long. But school, it actually goes out for a while. So you got a big maintenance window. That's pretty cool.
People always ask me, hey, when's your busiest time? Summer.
Yeah,
hands
for
down.
Down.
Summertime.
That's like Christmas for us is always huge. Or actually sometimes it is. Sometimes we have change windows or like they just do a change freeze. But yeah, when people are off, we're on.
Oh yeah. Summertime. big, big, big. What's kind of funny though too is that that's when I take all my vacations. Taking the family for the first time. We're going to Florida. I've never been there. I've always wanted to. We'll actually fly to Dallas and stay in Dallas for several hours, waiting for our plane to go to Florida. But I'm excited. I get to go to Las Vegas too, so I'm excited about that. Cisco Live.
Florida. Are you going to Cisco Live?
No, I want to though. I can't afford to. It's so expensive.
It is. Like I wouldn't go honestly if people didn't pay for me, especially in San Diego. I mean, just the hotel prices alone are ridiculous.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Cisco Live. Are you going?
Mm-hmm.
Is it in San Diego this year?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think San Diego.
Austin was telling us about that. He was telling us about going to Cisco Live this year. He was telling us today that Cisco has an employee. I think he said it was an employee conference, and it's in Las Vegas this year. I think it's in June or July, maybe August, something like that. I don't know. And he was talking about the stuff that they do, and I thought, man, I need to go to work for Cisco. It sounds like a fun place to work. And not that Region's not.
I mean, I don't know, dude. Like the more I think about it, like I've gone to where I've worked on a bunch of things, like kind of like you do. Then I've gone to where I'm more specialized, where I focus on one thing, and I definitely prefer what you do. And I hear that a lot. Like when you go to work at Cisco, you're going to be siloed. You'll be one thing. Like you'll be one thing within the thing. Like if you work for like Collaboration TAC, you're going to be doing just CUCM. You won't be doing Presence. You won't be doing Jabber or Cubes or anything else. Just one stinking thing. And that drives me crazy because you get bored super fast.
Yeah, we actually have speaking of Cube, we have Cube, and it's does our SIP trunk to AT&T. Mm-hmm. And that thing's pretty solid for the most part. And I say that, and tomorrow it'll be down. But we actually have another Cube device, and what it does is it's no longer Cisco supported. But so we have all these 9971s, and when we first rolled out VoIP, it was I don't want to say it's a marketing thing, but we sort of like push that out there to say, hey, these are our phones, and this is the type of service you'll get if you switch to our phone system. The problem was not all of our schools. I mean, I think there's like 60 school districts in this area, and I think we really only do business with maybe 50 something of them. I don't really remember what the number is, but anyway, there's a lot of them that don't use us for internet. They use their own local service provider or whoever it is. So we had to make a way for the phone, the 9971, work on our phone system. And what's kind of funny is if it was a school that does video with us, they already have a private circuit from us to them for video. So some of those schools, we would talk their tech director into allowing us to throw the phone onto the video network and route just that one phone network that we needed over their video line instead of over the public internet. If not, we had to either do a VPN on the phone or do with this Cube device, this other Cube device. Basically, the phone registers to this Cube proxy, and that Cube proxy registers to CUCM, and it's buggy. I've called Cisco TAC, and they're like, "Yeah, this really isn't supported anymore." I was like, "Oh,
wow."
And I remember, I'm the one that talked them into buying this thing because the problem with the VPN phone for us was, when you're a superintendent, you have already, if you're not on our phone system, you already have a phone on your desk, and maybe a ShoreTel or maybe a Via or Mitel or whatever, and then you have this other, they call it the bat phone. It's our phone. A lot of times it's either not sitting on their desk or it's in a closet plugged in, and they get it out when there's a conference, and that's it. But the problem is if we're doing maintenance on our side and we have to reboot the internet or reboot the connection that service is tied to, if it doesn't come up within a certain time, the VPN dies, and the superintendent doesn't know to go and click connect, or the VPN won't auto reconnect. It just, after a while, it'll just time out and say, I'm done. I'm tired.
So you guys don't have Expressway MRA or anything?
No, we tried looking into that. We don't have that. I think that the Expressway we have, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. I think the Expressway we have is only for Jabber, and we don't have anybody that uses Jabber. It's kind of funny. Jabber, they made this big push with Jabber, And I tried really, really hard to get some of our schools interested in it, but a lot of them weren't interested in it. I tried to use it for remote desktop support because right now we use BombGuard. BombGuard is our big remote support. And I tried to use the Cisco Jabber client, and it was kind of flaky.
It's buggy. Like I remember when they first started doing those remote screen options for Jabber, I'm like, this is so cool. We can replace all of these things we have. And it just became a last resort if something else wasn't working because it was so buggy.
We had a problem with, so we're a all PC entity. Some of our schools are all Macs.
Oh, yeah. We had so many schools are Mac only.
Oh, yeah. Or it was a Chromebook. And so I had a hard time getting the remote agent to remote support into especially if it was a Mac computer. That wouldn't work. Now I think there's a fix for it. I didn't have time to fix it, but I couldn't get anybody to get interested in Jabber. Now they're pushing that. What's that one?
WebEx Teams.
WebEx Teams. That's right. They've changed the name on it so many times.
Well, I was just at Cisco and I met one of the collaboration guys who like does a lot of the testing to make sure things are compliant. And I was like, dude, tell me please, what is the news on Jabber? Is it going to be around? What's the plan? And he basically told me, yeah, it's going to be a thing, but eventually it's going to be absorbed into something else.
Like cloud, they're really pushing the hybrid stuff.
Yeah, a bunch of hybrid stuff. And I was kind of pushing them on it too. Like I was like, hey, what's the future of VoIP? What do you think? Because they know what all their clients are doing. They know what their customers are doing, and it's like what you say. It's not going anywhere. A lot of customers still need that on-prem environment for security, for emergency calls. I mean, there's so many things that's dependent on voice that's not going to go away anytime soon. It's too like checking your Facebook and downloading a file. Like those are things, but like voice has to work all the time. It's very important.
Yeah, it's just like your cell phone, man. How many times have you picked up your cell phone and your cell phone doesn't work? Hardly ever.
Yeah,
but if it doesn't, man, you get frustrated when it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's
you
when
try
you're
to make
carriers,
Yeah,
well,
I'll tell you a big thing that we're looking at right now. I'm sorry. A big thing we're looking at right now is actually SD-WAN.
I was going to ask you about that. So, like, you said you have an MPLS and you've got a Metro cloud going on. So SD-WAN, what's going on with that?
So for SD-WAN, we've reached out to a couple of companies. We've reached out to Cisco, and it's almost kind of funny. We've reached out to Cisco. We've reached out to and I can't remember the name of these companies.
There's Velo Cloud, and I think CenturyLink has their own. And
up here it's AT&T and Windstream and Suddenlink, and each one of them has their own flavor of SD-WAN. That's kind of funny. You talk to all three of them, and it's almost like SD-WAN is an umbrella term, but they all have their own specialty within SD-WAN. Like Cisco's SD-WAN is more like, you've already got the provider there. You plug your connections into it, and then it figures out which way to route it based on the parameters that you set in it. Windstream's sort of the same way. I haven't actually talked to them, so I don't really know exactly what theirs is, but the impression I get is it's more like we'll go out. And the problem we have is some of these areas are so remote that we have fiber connection to every single one of our school districts. But for that town, that's probably the only fiber connection they have. And you're talking maybe an LTE connection for a backup. So for us, SD-WAN is going to be interesting if we can find providers in the area of this school that can do something more than 10 meg or 20 meg. And that's the problem that we're having when it's a really remote area is sometimes I don't know that SD-WAN is going to be you're looking more for a resilient connection is what you're looking for.
Right.
But SD-WAN is so cool because it will look at the traffic based on what you set, and it'll say, okay, well, you have a fiber connection here, and I'll route your VoIP and all your other high priority stuff here. But if you're just going to like Netflix or something, you're going to go this way. So SD-WAN is kind of cool. I had a hard time at first trying to figure out what the difference was between SD-WAN, and to me, it sounded like DMVPN. Because I'm thinking,
it sounded like iWAN. Like that was the biggest. Like that's what I asked Cisco. I'm like, you guys have iWAN. What's the dang difference? It's just fancy iWAN. Is that what it is with the dress on? Like, what is that?
Yeah. So we're looking into SD-WAN, and hopefully we'll be able to get some answers for some of our guys that are out there that have a provider that's able to give them a 50 meg connection. SD-WAN is an easy solution for us, but if they don't, LTE is a okay backup, but I don't know. I mean, you want to send VoIP over an LTE connection along with everything else. You might as well just tell them you have a secondary connection, but all you can do is VoIP. But I don't know.
Well, I used to hate it. Like we would have a bunch. So a mortgage company, like we would have a bunch of branches, and like a school district, we'll have a lot of branches in like remote offices where you can barely get a T1, and sometimes we just be shipping 4G hotspots out there, and sometimes they just have to stop using our internet and use their phones because. And I was embarrassed to say that, like we couldn't support them.
Yep, it stinks, man, and it makes you when you're the one that's asked, hey, I need you to find a solution that will give us a resilient connection, and you're thinking, okay, well, this town, it's because of us that they have a fiber connection to begin with, and the only fiber connection in the town is us, so that's going to be kind of hard. But I paraphrase that a lot, but I mean, in all seriousness, it really is tough. But
yeah, I should have you back on when you guys decide on SD-WAN, because I'm curious, because like I know Cisco's pushing it so hard, Viptela so hard, and it's a cool solution, but man, these providers that have it baked in, they can make a better deal for you, and a lot of the time it could be really cool. So I'm curious what you're going to find out.
Yep, I'll let you know.
But I don't want to make this too long, so I want to get to some of the meat that I know people care about.
Okay.
What certifications do you have right now?
I have a CCNA route switch, and I have a CCNA collaboration. I have an A+ and a Network Plus. Working on my CCNP route. I took the switch twice. I failed it the first time. Went back, and for some way I was able to figure out exactly what I was missing. I took the test 2 weeks later and passed it. The route, I haven't been as lucky. The first time I took it was kind of funny. I've taken it 3 times. And
that
the first
was
time
me too, just so you guys know, that was me. Yeah.
What was funny was the first time I took it, I did really well. I almost passed it. I think I was like 10 points away or whatever it was. The second time I took it was not as good. It was like 20 points away.
That's so weird, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And then the third time I took it, I felt really good about it. I thought, oh man, I passed this. I knew exactly what I did. That was the worst I've done. And I have had to go back and watch your videos to get some revitalization in me to go for certifications again, because I'll tell you what, that third time I failed it, man, it killed me. I thought I knew this stuff. I don't even know where to go. And I reached out to a couple of guys that do some Cisco certification training. I think Rob Riker was one of them. And
I've seen him. Yeah.
Reached out to him, and he kind of gave me some advice on what to do, and thanks to him for that, because he had his own channel, I think, for a while. I don't know if he still does, but I got kind of stuck in a rut there, and I'm finally getting myself back out of it. And it's kind of weird, when I tell people what I do at work, and I don't have a CCIE and I don't have a CCNP, they think, how did you qualify for that job?
Oh, really? So a lot of guys at your work have CCIEs?
Not at my work, but just in the industry itself.
Oh, the industry. Yeah, that was funny. I think, and this is a debate that everyone has. The CCIE, like when you're in your position right now, like you're pretty much at the top of your game, right? Like you can't really go much higher.
Probably not, unless I want to go into management or something.
Yeah. So you're at the top of the tech game, and I was going to ask, like, why even go for your CCNP if you're already at the top?
I think because it gives me confidence. I think that's the biggest thing for me, is it gives me the confidence that, hey, I know how to do this stuff. I've spent hours on my own time doing this stuff day in and day out. I get up at 5 o'clock every morning. Get up and make breakfast or whatever. Get the kids up, get them ready for school. Go to work, come home 6 o'clock, then go to the gym. Then come home and I study till 11 o'clock at night, 11:30 at night. I mean, it's rough. But, and of course, every once in a while, I'll try to take weekends off. Mm-hmm. Saturday, Sunday, I'll just rest my brain. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, is you got to rest. I mean, you can't just keep going. I mean, you got to give yourself rest. You got to unplug and rewind and just decompress. That's the biggest thing, is decompress.
Well, it's hard when you're doing what you're studying all day. Like you go to work and you're working on stuff. I mean, because I don't know if it's true for you. I'm sure it is true for you. But when you're working, you're doing not only CCNA level stuff, not only CCNP level stuff, you're doing CCIE level stuff, and even beyond that stuff doesn't cover, because you're having to dive deep into all these white papers and all these documentations and everything. It's insane. And then you have to come home and study CCNP routing and switching that cover a lot of stuff you don't see every day.
Right.
That's crazy.
I would say I would say what I'm doing currently now is really design heavy, very, very much so design heavy. And I even figured out today, after talking with Cisco and our security solution that we're looking at, you know what? I don't think I counted for the he was talking about 40 gig SFP modules and 10 gig SFP modules. And I just blankly stared at him and I thought, oh my goodness, I didn't even think about that. How could I forget about that? I mapped everything else out. And then I looked at that and I go, man, I don't even know that I could give you an answer right now. I'm looking at our Nexus box going, it's one of those things where it's 240s and the rest are 10, or 1040s and the rest are 40. 1010s and the rest are 40. I don't remember. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I got some homework to do. Let's you give me what you think we need. I'm going to go back and I'm going to draw this out and send it to you and tell you what we have. And man, just being able to reach out to partners and to reach out to Cisco directly if you can, and let them know your situation and let them know where you're at. And for me, networking is the biggest deal. And I don't mean networking in the sense of computer networking. I mean networking as in you, me, even though we're several hundred miles apart, I mean, we're two guys with a common goal. And just being able to put yourself out there is, a lot of times as IT guys, it's really easy for us to be reclusive and I've
been there. Like, I've been in places where I felt kind of possessive of my knowledge and kind of reclusive. I don't want to share it. And that's stupid. That's silly. The more you share, the more you put yourself out there, the more you grow and learn, and the more you don't realize that if the other guy's feeling just like you. It's crazy when you encounter people like that. So you're exactly right.
It's hard to come out of your shell, and it's hard to, I think in person I'm I'm really pretty shy, and I have to kind of get really, really comfortable in my own skin, especially when I'm in a room full of people that I don't know that well. I'm not very vocal. I'm one of those people. I like to just kind of soak everything in.
I'm the same way. So probably, like, if it's funny when people meet me in person, when I'm not like on network Chuck mode, I'm a very quiet person. Like I'm like you. I like to absorb the information. I don't want to talk. I don't know if I want to say that because I'm not sure if it's right or not. I'm going to listen to what you have to say first.
Yeah, I like to let people just talk, and I don't know if it's the correct term to use, but I'm not the alpha male in the room. I like to let the alpha males talk and get their stuff out first. And I don't like people talking over me, and I don't like talking over other people. And I think that for me personally, it's about hearing everybody's concerns, hearing everybody's solutions, because I hate when I'm in a room or in a meeting and everybody's spouting out the same solution. And it's like, okay, well, we're all spouting off the same solutions. I think it's clear what we need to do. I like and I'm not an ego person. If I'm not the person that came up with the solution, I really don't care. As long as either I know how to do it or the other person knows how to do it. I'm not an ego person. I mean, I'm there to learn. I'm there to help other people learn if I can.
Well, and I think that's why you are where you are. There are so many guys who have that ego, who want to be the one with the idea and get credit for it. But staying humble and just being that team player will take you really far. Your hunger for learning is what's going to get you far.
That never dies. I think that's that's new guys coming into this field. They see what we do and they think, hey, you kind of seem like, I wouldn't say you have it easy, but you kind of seem like the kind of guy that when you go home at night, you don't stress, you don't think about work. But the truth of the matter is when I go home at night, that's when I'm doing the most work. That's when I'm doing the most studying. When I'm at work, I'm doing work stuff, and I'm trying to try to make the routes more efficient. I'm trying to see if there's a way to make the Nexus and the ASR communicate more efficiently. CCNA and CCNP helps you with that a little bit, but it's different. CCNA and CCNP and CCIE, it gives you that confidence, and it gives you that this is the stuff you need to know for the exam, and this is the stuff Cisco looks for as far as what's required on their exam or whatever. But I think industry-wise, I think that even though you can go read a Cisco press book, I don't know that that's going to necessarily say that you can go run any network you want to, but it at least gives you the foundational knowledge that you need to know. Because you're right. Do I ever do RIP stuff? I haven't done RIP stuff ever. Only in a lab. Yeah. And I'm thinking, I don't know who would run RIP if they didn't have to.
And frame relay. Yeah, I haven't seen that in the wild. Yeah.
That's the only thing. I'll tell you this, the only thing that's discouraged me lately is I realized that the CCNP track itself has been out there for a long time. And out of all the certifications that have been revamped, that's one of the ones that hasn't been revamped. And I'm so scared that it's about to get revamped. And that's what makes me nervous because it's been, 2014 or 2013, the last time that one was revamped.
Yeah.
And collaboration's been revamped. CCIE was revamped. CCNA was revamped. Thinking, man, when's that one coming up for renewal? Because a lot of the CCNA stuff is in CCNP. And
well, that's the thing, though. Like, and I always tell people this when they ask about it. I'm like, I don't think much is going to change. Like, they're going to remove a few things. They're going to add a few more things on. And that's like, but when you're talking about something like collaboration or security, gosh, that's always like 4 or 5 years behind on what actually is really happening. I mean, telepresence conductor is not really a thing anymore. They have their, I forget what it's called now, the media, not media sense, but something else. But it's all been replaced. And then, you know, with security, firepower and FTD and stealth watch, like all that stuff, so it updates so rapidly. But routing and switching, it's pretty it stays pretty standard, I think.
I'm still curious to see when IP6 is going to take the stronghold that everyone says it's going to. For us, it's probably going to be quite a while.
Well, yeah, because like, I mean, I totally get the ISP realm as more and more companies start, you know, needing stuff. But on the private LAN, who's ever going to use IPv6? Who would ever need to use that?
From a service provider standpoint on our side, it would help in a lot of instances, because then you could just the way we're kind of configured, I could kind of see where IP6 would help, because we have a whole /17 range of IPs for public IP, and sounds like a lot, but like I said, we have 60 school districts, and all 60 of them have their own /24. So that kind of goes. And then you're talking about circuits, point-to-point circuits and stuff.
That,
so
yeah,
it gets eaten up pretty quick. So from a service provider standpoint, I'm thinking, oh, okay, I can kind of see why IP6 got eaten up. IP4 got eaten up so quickly. But you know, even for us, we're considered small business, even though we have 300 employees, or so, whatever that is, and 30 of them work in IT. We're still considered small business. You know, I guess from American standards, 300 is pretty small business, I guess. I came from a credit union that was 30 employees. So when I came to work here, it was 300 employees. I thought, God, this place is huge. And we consider ourselves small. And I'm thinking, I don't think we're that small. But, you know, some of our school districts are bigger than we are. You know, some of the school districts we have are, you know, they have 2,000 students or 3,000 students and, you know, about 1,500 staff members. So some of our school districts are bigger than we are. But
that's crazy.
It is crazy. And,
now,
man, I've just been.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just so thankful to come across your channel several years ago, because I was at that point. Back then, I was just doing VoIP stuff, just doing voice training. It was kind of the same thing. I took a CCNA level certification test, and I bombed it. And I think I came across your channel, and you had the Star Wars shirt on. I don't remember what I was watching, but I thought, man, this guy seems pretty cool. And I followed you ever since then, and I thought, every time you put out a video, it was just a reminder of me to go, you need to go and study. I mean, this guy's got it together as far as the Pomodoro timer. That thing helped me so much.
Dude, I'm so glad to hear that. Because, like, man, I'll tell you what, like, it's good to hear I help people, but I go through the same crap everyone else does. It's like, I talk about the reason I started my channel was because of George Almazan. Like, he posted a few videos, and back when I had like 500 subscribers, I remember like geeking out when I reached out to him on LinkedIn and he responded to me. I was like, honey, look, this guy responded to me. I was so happy and excited. So I'm like, you know, if I could be that person for somebody else to just inspire you, that's...
You were for me. So when I first started watching your channel, the last thing I thought was, don't take this the wrong way, the last thing I thought was seeing a CBT Nuggets trainer. I was watching a CBT Nuggets trainer in the making. And then that video that you put out that you're like about to go work for CBT Nuggets, I thought, man, I'm so proud of that guy. That's so awesome that you went there, and that's all the hard work that you put in, man.
Well, I'm gonna tell you that was all God, dude. Like, and seriously, like the way you feel about Jeremy Chara was exactly the way I felt. Like when I worked at my 2 jobs ago, I was kind of your situation. I was my first voice job, and I was watching CBT, Jeremy Chara, and me and this other guy. We both love CBT. We're both Jeremy Chara fanboys. Like, we talked about him like he was Jesus, and it was almost an idol in our lives. And So I started doing this YouTube thing. And I wasn't expecting it to go anywhere. And no joke, Jeremy reaches out to me on Twitter, and I've never spoken to this guy. Like, he's just been afar, my idol. So he reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, you want to jump on a phone call?" And I'm like, and I was jumping up and down. Like, I was like, "Honey, I'm about to jump on a call with Jeremy Chara. You have no idea." And she knows, like, I've talked about him forever. I used to play him in the car on the way to church. Like, I drove her nuts. And so she knew his voice really well. And to get on the phone with him, and I was like, I had to, like, pinch myself a little bit. Like, it's like hearing his video, but it's interactive. Like, it's so weird. But yeah, like, to be part of CBT Nuggets, I still don't feel like I should be there.
You should, man.
It's being among giants, but it's amazing. But I think everyone feels like that. Like, wherever you are in life, whatever position you're in, you feel like you shouldn't be there. Like, that's the imposter syndrome. And if you feel like you should be there, then maybe you shouldn't. I don't know. I don't know if it's reversed, but to be in the places we are in, like, you're an infrastructure administrator. You're high up there, and you're doing so many cool things. I'm sure you wouldn't, like, I couldn't come in and do your job. I know Jeremy probably couldn't come in and do your job. Like, you're doing an amazing things. And I was going to ask this question and maybe one more question. I don't know how much time you have. But if someone were to interview for your job, what kind of skills would they need?
They would definitely need some VMware vCenter, HyperFlex type experience. They would definitely need some really heavy on the route switch. Really heavy on just basic server knowledge. Windows, whether it's Windows or Linux, being able to be put in a situation where no one at the place knows the answer to this but you, and knowing how to Google stuff. That's
such a key skill that no one, like, it's, gosh, I'm so good at Googling right now. Like, I can find anything like that.
Oh my gosh. So for my position, I think someone would need to have at least 10 years of knowledge of just server maintenance, Windows updates, knowing what to do when you do a Windows update and it breaks, because I have to know that too, even though I try not to have to do it, because it's kind of like I've done server admin stuff before. That's not my forte.
It's beneath me.
Yeah, I want to stick with Cisco because there's just so much stuff that I could do better if I could just focus just on just anything Cisco. Let me take care of, whether it's VoIP, video, route switch. Let me do it, and then you can have a server guy.
So has programmability started to creep its way into your forte? Because I know you talked about how you go home at night and you're trying to figure out how to make things more efficient.
Actually has, because the programmability is come into play, because since we've kind of re-engineered, redesigned the way just the edge internet comes into our company. I was talking to our WAN administrator, because our WAN administrator is over all of our network specialists. And when I say WAN administrator, he's like client services, so like all of our school districts are customers. And he's kind of like the forefront. He's their boss, and he's like, the facilitator and all that stuff. And I said, man, I would love to be able to give your guys some exposure to ASR and Nexus. And I said, since we put EIGRP between the Nexus and ASRs now, we can just dynamically route. If we need to do maintenance on Nexus 1, we can just shut it down and everything will just route to Nexus 2. And I said, I would just love to give your guys some exposure to that, because they're probably not getting that exposure at some of these places. And he said, well, can you come up with a script? And I said, well, I may not be able to come up with a script, but I probably can, because of Python and software programmability and Nexus. I mean, that's what it does. I mean, all that interface that it has with so yes, I think definitely not right now, but definitely in the future, when we get to a point where we're ready to start doing that, giving these people exposure to do that, and to show them, hey, you can go to your school district, and if you need to build a new switch, you don't have to do it from scratch. Just build a script, do Python, and just let the script do it for you, and just plug it in, and there it goes. It's ready to go. So right now, no, but in the future, definitely. I think that's going to be huge, because these guys, their time is filled up not just with having to troubleshoot, LAN switching and stuff like that. I mean, they're having to go and figure out why, hey, I printed something, why didn't it print? Or the student's trying to get to a website and the web filter's blocking. I mean, their time is filled up with doing stuff like that. And it's not that stuff's not important, But doing LAN switching on top of that and being able to have that programmability where it's just deployment, especially deployment, and because you got to think once every 2 years or so, a lot of these schools go through refreshes where they're getting new Cisco switches or new whatever switches, and being able to just to have that programmability in there, where it's like you get a new switch, you just plug it in, and hit go, and it's ready to just deploy.
I love the way you describe that, because like I mean I've been there where you're responsible for these huge things, and when you have like a huge network issue, and you still got people coming to you saying, "Hey, I can't print," and you're like, you have to look at all those things, and you got so many priorities, but I love the way you put a positive outlook on programmability. Like, it's going to help you do your job better. It's not going to replace you. It's not going to ruin your the network engineers' lives. It's going to make it so much better because we just can't do it all right now, and it's just going to help us be able to actually do our job. I think it's the way.
I think you're right. I think that knowing the underlying infrastructure and knowing how switches are supposed to switch and how routers are supposed to route, and Cisco specifically, how they built their architecture and how to look at the Ceph table and the adjacency table and all that stuff. That stuff is so important because I think it enhances your programmability skills.
Oh yeah, I mean, a software guy trying to understand that would be, I don't know how he'd go about it. That'd be so difficult. And
I forgot that's another area that we do at Region 16 is we have our own programmers that do programming for school districts or other service centers like website hosting and stuff like that. So when I tell you we're a managed service provider, that's what we are for our department. Now we also have like the accounting department. We've got the accounts payable. I don't remember what the school finance, I think is what they call it. I don't remember, but these guys like reach out to the business people at the school and they say, don't worry about the payroll. If you pay us a X amount, we'll do the payroll for you. So that doesn't have anything to do with me necessarily, but they've figured out a way to because you got to think, man, a lot of these towns I'm talking about, they have a town of 800 people or something. So there's not a lot of people there, and sometimes a lot of times what happens is someone goes to work for the school and they retire. This person did payroll. This person did accounts payable. This person did, they also did work on IT stuff, and then they retire. And now all of a sudden they don't have anybody. They reach out to us and we have all those services available, accounts payable, whatever. So that's really cool that they do that. And, not to mention, I hate to say it too much and put too much of an explanation point, but being a government employee is kind of cool just because I get 2 weeks off at Christmas paid.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't have to beg to take off. It's just like when the school's out, I'm out.
That's awesome.
Except for summers. I have to work summers. That's when we do our most work. I get 2.5 weeks of vacation on top of the 2 weeks off at Christmas. It's sort of like, the best way I could explain it to you is I'm contracted. Don't take that literally, but it's like, I'm like a teacher. Teachers are contracted too. They work 222 days a year or whatever it is. And they stretch that out over 365 days. So it's almost like they're never really not 265, but they are just based on the way they're paid.
Right.
So
right.
I'm kind of the same way. I'm contracted for 232 days, and it's not like a contract I have to go in there and sign every year. It's a little unique. Texas is different on their contract stuff, but I don't have to sign a contract every year. It's just basically if the service that I work for goes away, then that's part of my income that goes away. So I'm absolutely all on board with video, VoIP, infrastructure because it's what butters my bread. I mean,
I love that.
I mean, seriously, I think you have to. I think to go in and say I'm just a route switch guy, I hate VoIP. It does nothing to help you to be that way. I mean,
no, you have to be an IT guy. You can specialize, but you gotta love it all.
It's kind of funny. Hopefully this won't be re-aired, but when I started, I think I was hated because I came in with the attitude of, I'm here to learn everything. I'm here to just not take your job, but it benefits me to benefit myself and benefit the school. And I think people wanted to see me fail. And that was unfortunate because I should say I alone, but when I started, we had 10 school districts that did VoIP. And now we have 30.
Oh, wow.
And it's because I'd call them and say, hey, send me your phone bill and I'll show you why you can save money switching to us. Because if you switch to us, you don't need a phone bill anymore. All you do is pay us X amount of dollars per month for a Cisco phone to sit on your desk, because we're going to just route all your phone calls through SIP. And
Yeah,
route your,
I've been on that one too. Like working for a mortgage company, every branch is kind of like its own little business, and we try to recruit branches, and we do the same thing. Like, here's what we charge per phone. This is the cost we'll have for it, and we'll help you out. We'll manage the whole thing, SIP and everything.
You ever heard of a company called Jive?
Yeah.
That we're sort of like Jive on the phone, except we charge like $12 a handset for anything over 50 handsets.
Oh, we had the same cost model. Like we were a bit higher. We charged like $50 per handset or something like that. Of course, we're full service. Voice, voicemail, video, jabber, like everything. Yeah.
We're 14 and 12 is what we are. We started out, when I started, it was only 18. So if you were a school district that had 200 handsets, it was $18. If you were a school district that had 10 handsets, it was $18.
It's a genius business model. It's awesome.
And I finally we had this school district that was kind of they were on the fence about, joining with us. And this is kind of where it's not only important to just have IT skills. I mean, you got to have Excel spreadsheet skills, because basically what I did was I looked at what revenue I was aware of. They're not going to tell me everything, but I looked at the revenue that I was aware of, and I looked at the model that we were on, and I said, hey, look, guys, we can lower our price a little bit. If we can lower our price to this, we will gain this other school district. And if we gain this other school district, we can lower everybody's price, because we're not a profit company. So the only thing that goes back into the service center is salary, really. We're not that's the one thing that gives us an advantage is, we get educational pricing for one, and we're able to resell that service, but it's not a profit. It's like a credit union or something, where that profit doesn't necessarily go back into the credit union's pocket or our pocketbook.
That's cool.
We reinvest that money, and we help everybody. The more people that sign on, the cheaper it is for everyone. So it's, even though I'm not a Democrat or a liberal, but sometimes that kind of makes sense in some.
How dare you? You're in Texas, don't you? No, I'm right there with you. It makes sense where it makes sense.
Yep.
It's not like, there's not always one answer. But anyways, it's getting pretty late, brother. So I'm going to end off with a quick speed round of question and answer. So here we go.
Okay.
Your favorite area of Cisco? So
route switch. I have two. Route switch and VoIP.
Okay. That's kind of me too. Like, I'll get into route switch. I'll love it to death. And then I'll forget about voice for a little bit. I'll get back into voice. I'm like, oh my gosh, I missed this so much. And it's vice versa.
Route switch is so foundational.
Oh, it's great. What's your favorite routing protocol?
My favorite what?
Routing protocol.
I love BGP. I hated it at first because I didn't understand it, but I love BGP. EIGRP is pretty cool, but I'm starting to figure out that OSPF has got a lot of nerd knobs to it, I like to say. But I'd say right now between BGP and OSPF, I love BGP. I love it because it's challenging, and it's not just a protocol. It's what you can do with it.
Interesting.
It's policy-based routing. That stuff is so cool. BGP, hands down. I love EIGRP too, but I'm starting to find out OSPF is cool too. So it's like you have 3 kids. Which one do you like the best? It's hard to pick, but BGP, man, I love learning BGP. It's so cool. It's funny.
It's the internet. My next question was, which of your kids is your favorite?
All 3 of them, man. I can't pick. There's no way I could pick.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Trek.
Trekkie. Oh, Trekkie. Oh man.
Trekkie, big time.
Coke or Dr. Pepper?
Dr. Pepper.
Oh yeah, you're out in the panhandle. Don't forget, all you guys are Dr. Pepper out there.
Are we really?
Yeah, like Coke over here, man. Coke all the way.
Oh.
Let's see. Are you into Harry Potter at all?
My kids are. They've tried to get me into it. I have not sat down and watched it, but it looks really cool because I love Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. Okay, all right.
Game of Thrones. I'm starting to kind of. Game of Thrones is kind of funny. I watched the first 7 seasons, I think, or 6. I watched the first 6 seasons, and I forgot everything I watched. And so
there's a lot to keep track of.
I'm starting back over at season 1, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh, this is it's so freaking in depth." I mean, I have to watch that
shows ever. It's amazing.
Are you caught up?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of one of those
let me
guys.
ruin it for you. So this is what happened last episode.
I'll tell you what. A lot of the guys I work with, obviously, they're Game of Thrones guys and they're Avengers. They love the Avengers. I'm one of those guys. You can say what you want. I go to Wikipedia and I get the synopsis because for some reason, like, okay, I went and watched the Avengers, right? And the whole big thing was don't spoil it for everybody. So I went to Wikipedia right before I watched it because there's so much going on that if I can just get a brief overview of kind of what happens at the end, I can focus on everything else.
That's funny.
It's like, so Game of Thrones, I'm Wikipedia caught up. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm Wikipedia caught up, so I know exactly what happened Sunday. I know all the guys are like, "Oh my God, she's crazy," and I thought, really, that's weird because the episodes I'm on, she's pretty nice lady.
So you're kind of like Bran, like you know what's going to happen, but you're just experiencing it as you go.
I'm cheating a little bit. Yeah, he's pretty cool. At first, when I started watching this, I was like, that kid's kind of like me. He's kind of wimpy and dorky, but man, he's pretty cool. He's a pretty cool kid.
Yeah, he's got gifts. He's cool. Well, anyways, man, my wife's texted me saying, "You better get out of there." I got to get. But dude, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been amazing. So many guys are going to get so much encouragement from hearing your story and just what you're doing. What you're doing is stinking cool. I mean, it may not realize it because you're in and out, doing it every day, but it's amazing. I love hearing about it. So thank you, seriously.
Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to me. I mean, don't sell yourself short, man. I mean, I know I talked a lot about Jeremy Chara, but you're one of those guys that I'm telling you, man, you got me out of a rut, and you'll never. I don't know if you'll ever understand it. You may understand what I'm talking about, but ever since I found your channel, it's changed exactly everything. I mean, I was kind of getting that negative tone, but I saw your positive outlook and Jeremy's positive outlook. It's like I can't compare the two, man. I mean, I'm talkative to you right now, but if I were to meet you in person, I'd be like, I don't know what to say. I'm so quiet and shy, but yeah. Just like you, when you reached out and you responded, I told my wife, I was like, "Oh my God, Chuck responded." You sent me that. I don't have that cup with me. It's probably getting washed right now, but I got that coffee cup. I drink out of that coffee cup every Saturday. So I wash it, and it's my Saturday cup.
That's love it, dude. That's awesome.
So man, thank you very much for that.
It's you don't know what it means to me to hear all that because I mean, most of the time it's just me talking to a camera, and not like it's. I don't see the impact, so it's cool to hear that.
I just like where you've come. I mean, you went from having this channel and all that stuff, and you got to meet Kevin Wallace, and you got to meet every single person. Keith Barker, Jeremy Chara, all the guys.
I met all my heroes. I mean, it's ridiculous. I told my wife when I started working at CBT Nuggets, it's like I'm major league now. I'm in the NFL. That's what
you are, man.
It's amazing.
It's like. So humbling. When I told my wife about it, she's like, "Oh man, I bet you're just nervous." I'm like, I'm really not because of what you said. It's just two friends talking about IT stuff. But man, I'm so proud of where you've come from and where you're at.
Thanks,
because I relate to you. You were saying on that last thing that you put out that you guys were on food stamps and government help and all that stuff. I was there too, man. I'm so proud of where you were to where you are now. And you should be proud of yourself, man. That's all the work that you put in is so tough, and just be proud of yourself, dude, because that's awesome where you're at.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, absolutely. So, dude, thanks again. And if you guys want to follow Dallas, I'll put his Twitter stuff below. I don't know if you post about your certification journey, but I'm sure people will be super encouraged by it, even if you fail.
I will start doing it because I think it'll help me to try to tell people my journey. It'll actually help me to expand on my experience. Whole journey
for sure. Absolutely. Well, that's about it, guys. Thanks for watching. Any questions for me or Dallas, post them below, and I'm sure we'll jump in and answer those. Catch y'all next time. All right, cool.
Thanks, Chuck.